Senator Welch.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank the witnesses. I actually don't have a lot of questions because I do have a concern that this issue is getting very politicized. None of us want whatever amount of crime we have in our communities. We just don't want it. It's terrible. And that is a concern that all of our residents, all of the people we represent have. All of you are dedicated to law enforcement. But the objection I have to the use of the Guard is the manner in which it's being done. It does appear to be a very political decision on the part of the administration about whether to deploy, when to deploy. Some of these issues that my colleague from North Carolina was mentioning, bail issues, penalties, things that you're concerned about, I know. Those are national. I mean, every community has to make its decision, but those are fair and square debates to have. What's the right way to treat a person who is an offender? But, Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I notice is that we get into this political debate about this when, in fact, there's contradictions here. The per capita murder rate in states run by Republicans is 50% higher than it is in Democratic states. I don't draw a conclusion that that means that Republican-led states are soft on crime, but the assertion that's being made constantly by the administration is that Democratic states are being soft on crime. In Vermont, we spend a lot of money on law enforcement. It's a big deal in our state, even though we have a relatively, fortunately, lower crime rate. Vermont spends $368 per capita on policing. That's what we spent in 2023. That's more than was spent in Iowa, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, and Alabama. The other thing that is troubling to me is our local law enforcement, like in Vermont and I know in Iowa, they have been beneficiary of some of these federal grants. Made a real difference when I talk to some of our police chiefs. They've made a real difference in their capacity to be responsive and to get the best training possible. And the Department of Justice cut 373 anti-crime grants unilaterally. I'm pretty upset about that. And my understanding, Mr. Chairman, you get your phone calls returned from the White House. So my understanding is you were able to intervene and help your folks in Iowa. So God bless you. I'm not sure I get the same reception when I call the White House, right? So I don't think this should be on a political basis. If these COP grants are good, let's get them spread out to the communities that need them as much as possible. And it shouldn't be just on the basis that you're the Senate President pro tem that you're able to take care of your state, but the rest of us don't quite have that clout. So I acknowledge your position here, but I don't think it should be unique to Iowa that you get your senator to be able to get those grants. We've got to get those grants out and show respect for law enforcement. Another issue that's a real problem, we have in Burlington, homelessness, drug abuse, and public spaces are not safe for many folks. And there's a mental health issue when I talk to my police chief about what needs to be done, and that has to be part of the equation. So, talking about bail policies is important, talking about penalties is important, but talking about mental health is important too, because a lot of folks have been kicked out on the street. We don't have treatment facilities that are needed, and those folks are out on the street and ultimately end up in the criminal justice system. It's something I know. I was a public defender for a number of years, and a lot of the folks I represented, their crime essentially was that they had a severe untreated mental illness, and in frustration, ultimately, they ended up in the criminal justice system and oftentimes in jail when everyone acknowledged that this was a mental health more than a criminal conduct issue. So I feel sad, frankly, about the politicization of this issue and sending Guard. And we have wonderful National Guard in Vermont, but like you were saying, they're trained for military missions, and in fact, they serve with great distinction in Iraq and Afghanistan. And we, as a rural state, have that situation that rural states often have, where our enlistment rate, our volunteer rate, is high because people really want to defend the country and do that. So I just have a lament here, Mr. Chairman, that this issue is something that we should be working on together, because any crime in our communities is really a threat to our communities. So I want to thank the witnesses and to some extent apologize for taking the senatorial prerogative of giving my 5 minutes in the form of a speech instead of a question, but thank you.
You 5 people